Funders Network for Smart Growth and Livable Communities and the Urban Sustainability Directors Network have come together to create the Partners for Places Equity Pilot Initiative, which was created to help the increasing number of local governments who are interested in embedding equity in sustainability and climate action projects. The pilot initiative provides financial and technical support and a space for cities to learn together with peers as a way of leveraging structural change as well as supporting the projects themselves. The first cohort that's received funding from the Partners for Places Equity Initiative includes 4 cities: Baltimore, Maryland, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Knoxville, Tennessee, and Providence, Rhode Island.
The City of Baltimore wants to work on institutionalizing equity into all of its planning processes and projects and implementation. Ideally, what we want to come up with at the very end is to have a sustainability plan that is endorsed, adopted, and quite honestly led by members of the community, but especially our low-income and communities of color. It's a very important piece for us to make sure that we have representation from all members of the community, and especially those that have been historically ignored and have lack of access to resources for such a long time. So that's going to be our 2 main goals, along with a lot of making sure that we're thorough in our outreach, we're comprehensive, that we're good listeners, that we're collecting great stories, that we are utilizing the information given to us as part of developing the plan, and then we're building relationships and trust throughout the process so that at the end we can move straight into implementation and making sure that we're all working together. I think it's really important for the community to feel heard, to feel understood, to feel like we're actually listening to what they're saying and making sure that the feedback that they're giving is actually being used for planning, that we're not just asking them to rank something or create their ideal and then not actually working on putting that as part of the plan, so that we're representative of the demographic makeup of the city, as well as addressing some of the key issues that have gotten us to where we are now and the bad planning practices in the past. I think our office hopes to learn what members of the community really want, how they want to see Baltimore become a more equitable, sustainable, and resilient city, what people feel is most important to them and their quality of life, and what government can do in partnership with the community to make sure that we can make that happen. So helping in setting priorities, helping in identifying what needs to happen next, all of that we want to learn. We want to learn what is most important, and I think that's going to change neighborhood by neighborhood or district by district. And we want to make sure to collect that information so that it helps us with prioritization, implementation, and also support. And we want to make sure that we're constantly supported throughout the process and that it's community-led and partner-led. I would go into it acknowledging and being honest about where your city is, and being quite honest about bad planning practices from the past. A key for us has been to openly admit that we've had terrible racist policies for long periods of time that have led to segregation and current inequity, and to be frank about that, to acknowledge it, and to also admit our own current shortcomings, to admit that you don't have all the answers and that you need assistance in identifying the best way to move forward. Admitting our own challenges and sort of bad practice of the past is the only way for us to continue, is to move forward, I think, in a good way, and to build up relationships and to build up trust. I also think that it can't be a top-down process anymore. Really, for I think cities that are looking to be more sustainable and equitable, you need to think about this being a community-led process. It bottom up, very much supported at the grassroots, getting that kind of support, starting with your strong community leaders, but then making sure that you get the voices that aren't heard, getting representation from the socioeconomic makeup of your city, and being committed to that through all layers of the process, starting in the very, very beginning with doing the look of where you are, but also in where you want to be and moving forward, making sure that those voices are heard throughout the process, that there's trust and relationship building throughout the process, and that there's really active listening throughout the process, so that it really is something that is led and supported by community rather than being that top-down that we usually do.
So the city has a motto, and it says people helping people. And with the Partners for Places initiative, what I'm hoping is that we'll be able to examine that motto through a social equity lens. So when we look at people, it's not a one-size-fits-all definition, that we look at the different factors that shape people's lives and experiences. And when we look at helping, we don't look at just keeping up the status quo. We look at how we can move people forward in realizing their true potential. And so what I hope to achieve is a real rich perspective of what people helping people means. What I hope that we're going to learn from this process is that we're more empathic to the ways that diverse members of our communities feel. And I hope that drives the policies and practices and accountability that we have. In particular, I can see applications for sustainability, for climate change, for transportation decisions, for affordable housing, and other areas that I hope that city staff find from this experience. The community should feel valued and feel empowered and able to influence change. And most importantly, I hope that through this interaction that we realize that honest conversations and relationships are the way that we make change.
So there'll be several key factors that we'll need to get done. And one of them, the first one, is identifying community members that will take on the role of leading their individual areas in this initial pilot project. Trying to identify those key community members to take that information out there. We have a couple of strong neighborhood associations where they could come from. The second part of that is going to be getting those community members to engage fully with their communities and get other people involved to be the catalyst for that. Another piece is going to be getting government and community members to understand they are equals in this project. The government is not over people. Government is made up of people, and government gets their power from the people. And so that equality needs to be understood. And then using this information to inform government and to make policy decisions that will assist the community in bettering itself, assist the community of what they truly need, getting it from them firsthand. Not what government thinks they need, but what they are telling government that they need. The advice I would have for other governmental leaders interested in equity and sustainability would be to actually look at the processes the government has in place differently. Many of the processes, with my experience in government, having come from government and retired from there, my experiences now that I look back are many of the public input meetings and those type of things are only done because they're required by law. It's a checkbox that government uses just to say, we did that, and nobody ever shows up. They advertise it in a way that is only required by law and no more most of the time. Some governments do. However, the public sometimes is unaware of it. And so being able to make it a process where it's actually meaningful to have these meetings, to have public input, not just a checkbox to say we did that and now we can move on with whatever projects we have going on or whatever decisions we want to make, even though the public did not give their voice. They did not have a voice in that. And so making that shift from just the legal requirements to making it a meaningful process is going to be very important and something that needs to be carried forward.
Through the Equity Pilot Project, we'd like to have Knoxvillians, first starting with the city government staff and then rolling it out throughout the whole city, that we look at people as people. The problem we've had in the past is decisions have been made based on things like the color of your skin. And so even though that's an attribute that is just like the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, or what color shirt you have on, we don't want the color of your skin to be viewed as a negative toward you as a person. Key factors for success. Number one, I think that there has to be a level of trust. People working in this line of work need to trust each other. There has to be a level of commitment. We have to have support from stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, I don't mean just the mayor and the supervisors throughout the city. I really mean, when I say stakeholders, the everyday employee needs to believe and be committed in this project. And community, because this is one that we're tying in and we're rolling out with community partners. Our partners have to be committed. They have to believe that this is work that needs to be done, and to the impact that it's having on our city by making the decisions that we've made without questioning the biases that are apparently there.
What I really want to learn through this Partners for Places effort is how to be a better ally and a better leader in this really tough but very important conversation on equity. We've all been talking about the three-legged stool of sustainability, and I think that I have the passion to really embrace that equity piece, but I really want to learn more about the language, about the history, about the experience of people of color so that I can be a more effective ally for them and help them, empower them to help break down some of these structural inequities that we see in government as well as in our communities. I've done a lot of reflecting as to how I came into this conversation, and I think the most important advice that I can give to a sustainability leader is that the first step is the most important. And as we take that first step, recognizing that these are not easy questions and they don't have easy answers. This is not a process, not a topic where we can devise a checklist and work our way through it. We have to learn, we have to engage, we have to struggle through this messy topic so that we can get to a solution that has those legs and has the community staying power to really have an impact. So the first step is the most important one, but don't expect it to be the only thing and the only one. You have to be ready to commit and be ready to slog through some of those challenges and celebrate your successes, but also know that there's lots of challenges and it's a bumpy road ahead.
So through this project, we have the opportunity to revisit our sustainability plan and bring new voices and perspectives to the table and apply a social and racial equity lens to this plan. We hope to identify the gaps between what is already in our sustainability plan and the agenda and what the needs and values of our low-income communities and communities of color. In order to do this, what we really hope at the end of this project, this pilot, is to improve relationships between the city and low-income communities and communities of color. The advice I would give for others to incorporate equity into sustainability would be that in order to do this, we really need to slow down and in some cases take a step back to undo damage that's been done. We're going to need to listen more and talk less. And we're going to need to establish the right processes with the community at the table and again, build those relationships so we can go forward with this work.
One of the factors is to have open and honest communication without empty promises to the community. It's also important to develop a process for accountability, and it's going to be very important to develop a critical analysis so that we can start talking with the same foundation in our dialogue between city and community. Project of Equity and Sustainability is looking forward to learning how to bring the city and the community together in the same room in dialogue without having to worry about power dynamics in developing the discussions in this process.
Yeah, the role that we play with the Partner for Places Equity Pilot Initiative is really as a consultant. I work with the Center for Social Inclusion, and our work is really around addressing issues of structural racism. And so we're supporting the pilot initiative by giving local jurisdictions help in thinking through how do you apply an equity lens to their projects. And in addition to that, really working with the jurisdictions to think about how they can partner together to support each other as they go through that process. Really recognizing that there's great value in sort of peer-to-peer learning, sharing both what successes have been and what the challenges are.
My role with the Partners for Places Equity Initiative is I'm one of the consultants working on equity. I am the director of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, and we work with local government from across the country to make sure that when government is doing all of the work that it does, that we're actively inserting equity into our work.
It's really important to look at equity and sustainability work. First, those most frequently impacted by the current inequities we see around issues of climate change are really people of color, low-income people. And so one of the things that we know is that if we can address the needs of those who are most vulnerable in our communities, we can always come up with solutions that work better for all of us. So by really thinking about issues of climate change within the context of those who are most vulnerable in our communities, we have the opportunity to come up with solutions that are more impactful for everyone in a shorter term.
Sustainability is an area that within government cuts across every single department, and there's just a huge amount of leverage and traction thinking about the systemic approaches that can be taken within government. We're really happy to be working with the 4 sites that got funded this year. We are also creating a community of practice that extends beyond those 4 sites. We're really excited to be working with the Urban Sustainability Directors Network because it is structured across the country, that we know that there's sustainability offices in so many cities, and that engaging more sustainability directors in projects on sustainability and equity is an exciting opportunity to expand the work that we're doing.